Welcome to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series, where we focus on how financial advisors work, live, and give to their local communities and our greater financial services industry. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris Gandy, your NAIFA trustee and the CEO of Midwest Legacy Group. Today, we have a special edition of Advisor Today podcast, where we feature the top leaders in insurance and financial services throughout the country. I will be being assisted today by our co-host from Rise 25, Chad Franzen. Chad, go ahead, take it away. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Chris. I have done hundreds of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and CEOs, and I look forward to being a part of today's episode. Before we get started, I'll let everybody know that this episode is brought to you by the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, or NAIFA, the #1 association for producers in financial services. At NAIFA, they enhance professional skills, promote ethical conduct, and advocate for legislative and regulatory environments. NAIFA members make more money and stay in the business longer and are happier. If you're already a member, you know how awesome they are. And if you are in the financial services business and are not a member yet, join today. If you're interested in becoming a member, go to naifa.org to learn more, or you can email them at info@naifa.org. We have a special guest today. It's Andrew Holt. Andrew has spent the past several years of his career in the political arena, starting off as an intern on a Senate race in South Carolina. He found his passion of connecting voters with elected officials, which led him to managing campaigns from U.S. congressional races down to city council. This led to his current position at NAIFA, heading up grassroots advocacy. In his most recent role, he influenced public and elected officials on legislative priorities, engaged volunteers in grassroots efforts, and led grassroots lobbying efforts at the state chapter level. Andrew is a proud alumni of Clemson University, but has just left the great state of South Carolina to move to Washington, D.C. to be at NAIFA headquarters. During his time on the campaign trail, Andrew always had his dog with him, and by the end of his time on the road, the two of them hit 19 states across the Southeast and the Midwest. Chris, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. We get a chance to interview Andrew, and Andrew, it's an honor to spend some time with you today. Again, just sit back and relax and enjoy yourself. Let's kind of shoot off the cuff a little bit. I'm gonna ask you some questions, but let's have a conversation. Fair. We have this conversation. We talk about NAIFA and we talk about the association. We talk about government. Talk to us a little bit about, hear this common word of grassroots. What does that really mean? Can you give us some context to kind of that? Because it kind of gets thrown around a lot, grassroots.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. But first off, I want to say thank you for welcoming me on your show today. So grassroots can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different arenas, right? Traditional grassroots, when you think of the word, you think of knocking on doors, making phone calls, sending, postcards to voters, specifically on elections. When I think of grassroots from the view of NAIFA, it's a little different. I think of it, grassroots is about mobilizing the public on legislative issues at every level of government. And when I think of that, I think of building relationships, something that our agents and brokers do on a daily basis with their clients. It's building that trusted relationship with their client, because at the end of the day, they're the subject matter expert, and they want to help folks and make sure that they're financially sound and they're going forward in their lives. So similar to that, I think of it's building that relationship and building that trust with your legislative officials. When a bill drops in, whether it's the state house, the state, your city council, or even up here in Washington, D.C. at the federal level, when that bill drops, we want to make sure that our legislators are contacting our people and saying, hey, how does this impact your clients? At the end of the day, it's all about our clients, right? And so grassroots it's just about being, friendships, building those, that trusted core, and making sure that when they have a question about an issue within our sector, they're calling us and they're making sure that we can help explain it to them. And so, when you think about that, it's not your traditional just knocking on doors, mobilizing on that front. It's about making sure that, we are the first person that they're calling. When we go to events, they're walking up to us and saying, hey, oh, it's great to see you. You have that friendship. It's not just that transactional relationship that you see on other fronts.
Andrew, those are great comments. It just brings a thought to my head of actually, grassroots starts with a seed. You mentioned first, and all grass starts with grass seed, right? And it gets watered, and then some comes up, some doesn't, which I'm sure happens in politics. So I always think about kind of that seed, as you mentioned first, and that really kind of resonates. Talk to me a little bit, Andrew, about kind of what you do and why, NAIFA, does NAIFA really impact voting and elections and legislation? It's an organization that has been founded based on membership of advisors. So how does that, from what you do, and how does that really impact kind of the industry?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, what I do is, and I was brought onto the NAIFA team about 4 months ago. What I do is I'm teaching, I'm coaching people. I'm helping guide folks. At the end of the day, you think of grassroots and you have your lobbyists. I am basically going in and helping advisors across the country and explaining to them that, hey, you can make that difference. You just have to, put your foot out there, step through that door and say, yeah, I want to be a part of this process. And I think about this, Chris, over the last 3 years, we went through a global pandemic. And I think a lot of folks saw that, wait a second, decisions are being made rapidly. And, that's something that we have to make sure that our industry is being represented properly during those rapid decision-making process. And that's not just at the federal level, but that's also at the state level. A lot of bills pop up all the time. And we always joke, when you see a bill pop up in one legislature across the country, odds are in the next 4 years, it's going to pop up in some other legislatures with somewhat of a copycat, some would say, system of government when it comes to that front. So making sure that we have our folks at the front lines talking to our elected officials, making sure that our clients are protected from, we always want to talk about good legislation, right? There's a lot of good things that are happening at the government level. But at the same time, there's a lot of dangerous legislation, not dangerous in the sense of harmful legislation, but it could impact the industry in ways that, those unseen impacts. So a lot of what I do is going around and talking to folks and saying, hey, you need to be that voice. You need to get in the fold, because at the end of the day, most people don't do that. And it's not because they don't want to. It's because life happens, right? From 8 to 5, you're working, you're protecting your clients, you're working your products. From that 5 to 8 hour, you might have a family. You have to go to the grocery store. You got to go to soccer practice. You got to go football. It takes 15 minutes to get involved, but most folks don't realize it only takes 15 minutes. It doesn't take hours on hours every day. And those little 15 minutes, you can be very impactful. So a lot of what I do is explaining that to people and trying to bring them into the fold, because at the end of the day, it's not easy to get politically involved if it's not your profession, because you have other things going on. And so I try to show folks that there's a million ways that you can get involved, right? Some people are happy to send emails to legislators. Some people have time to go to an event after work or during luncheon. Some people have time to, spend and write 100 letters. It's a matter of identifying each individual's ability and time and then activating them. And it truly is, it's an exciting piece of work, because as people get into the political fold, we want to talk politics, and it can be somewhat of a nasty business, but there's a lot of fun that can happen, right? There's a lot of cool things that you can do that, and it's, everybody always looks for that grand slam, but at the end of the day, the person that gets on base every single time, that's what we're looking for. We need people that are hitting those pop flies, people that are hitting those ground balls, because they're getting on base and they're building those relationships. And just like when you have friends, it takes years to build that trust. And so it's just those little increments. And so that's a lot of what I do, is explaining to folks that you can get involved. And so when, to your second point of that question, when you think about candidates and voting, we don't have a national voter day, right? We don't get that day off. Voting is at best probably 50%. And then in the midterms and primaries, it's very low. Most people think that everybody else votes. I like to channel. I have a friend that was in the 2020 cycle, was in Iowa. 6 votes decided a U.S. congressional race. 6. Your vote matters. And so explaining that to people that goes, hey, 6 people decided who's representing an entire district of people in the U.S. House for 2 years. We go back to Virginia. I think this was 4 years ago. They actually had a flip of a coin based off a law from like the 1800s to decide, because it was a dead even split on the vote. So explaining to people that, hey, it really does matter. And it's not just at the federal level. I always like to believe that government closest to you can make the most impact. So voting matters, especially on the down ballot races, because they can make huge impacts. We have, for instance, we've seen this past year alone, in the last 4 months, we've seen wage theft legislation that has come out across the states. We've seen worker classification legislation that's come out on the state level. Those are huge bills that would directly impact our brokers and agents and how they do their business. And that in turn will directly impact their clients. So it's a learning curve, and it sounds silly. And people, everybody thinks, oh, we all have to vote. Everybody does that. But at the end of the day, not everyone does it. So we need to make sure that our people at NAIFA are stepping up to the plate and are making sure that their clients are protected by getting involved in the legislative process, voting, and making sure that they're highlighting, hey, primary voting matters just as much as general election voting.
Let's talk a little bit about, let's shift gears for just a moment, Andrew, and let's just talk about, when I joined the financial services industry, I joined to work with people, and I joined to help families be able to protect the things that are most important to them, whether it's their businesses or their families, and have the right to be able to accomplish the American dream through planning, right? And so when I joined the industry, I remember having a conversation with one of my good friends who happens to be a lobbyist. And I remember they said that, Chris, the line bleeds between business and politics. You just need to know where the line is. So let me ask a question. Most financial advisors will say, I'm not political. I don't want to have anything to do with politics. Okay. Like politics. Well, I don't want to have anything to do with politics, but can you explain just one thing is that why should financial advisors understand that business and politics are kind of synonymously talked about, but why should they care about what's happening with politics as it deals with financial services?
No, that's a great question. Actually, funny enough, I was with some folks yesterday, and this same question came up. So if you're the trusted advisor for someone, they're coming to you, your client's coming to you, and you're their financial advisor. They're trusting you to make decisions that are going to best impact their life and in future their retirement. Well, I would say it's not malpractice, but it's just, you have to take that next step, because if you're truly their trusted person, well, then you have somewhat of a responsibility to make sure that because this industry, that client might not necessarily truly understand the industry and legislation in general. So you're the person, if they trust you to make sure that their money is properly, being invested or whatever it is, well, I would say that it's partially your responsibility to make sure that, you're watching out on the legislative process to make sure that bad legislation isn't going to impact your clients, because at the end of the day, bad legislation might impact your business, which in turn will impact your clients. And I think, an example of that is Kentucky. About 4 months ago, had a bill introduced in their state Senate that would put a 6% sales tax on top of your typical taxes simply for financial services.
Wow.
Let's talk about that, Chris. I mean, come on. If people already need to get that, don't necessarily use financial advisors, now you're talking about another 6% on their money that they're going to meet with people. That's actually driving people away from talking with advisors. So I would argue that if you're an advisor, getting into that political fold is protecting not only your business, but your clients, because you want to make people financially literate. But a 6% sales tax on top of sales, people are going to stop coming. And we're at a very interesting point in our economy right now. That extra 6%, that's tough. That'll hurt. That hurts the pocketbook. So I would say it's somewhat of a responsibility of our agents to be in the political fold. And you don't have to be political. And I think this word political has gotten kind of a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth over the last 5-6 years. You can just pay attention. You don't have to be at every fundraiser or go to every campaign event or, be on your Facebook or Twitter nonstop retweeting articles. You can just pay attention and build those relationships silently, just like you do with your clients. Pay it, when bad legislation pops off, and I'll use that Kentucky, when that legislation popped off, our NAIFA chapter in Kentucky immediately mobilized. And they looked at the relationships that we had in that state and said, okay, here's our key committee that we have to go after because this bill is currently in committee. We want to make sure that we kill this bill in committee before it goes to a floor vote on the Senate floor. Well, what did we do? We had folks drive up and they met with their legislators 2 days before that committee meeting. Guess what happened? That bill didn't make it through. That is the essence of grassroots mobilization. That is the essence of why you should be in the political fold. Because for all you know, I just moved to the Washington area, Chris. I don't know if my neighbor might be my city councilman. I have no idea. You don't realize that those people are normal people as well. You can go and meet them in a lot of different ways. And so making sure that, you're protecting your clients by being in the fold it's just the essence of what Grassroots is and why it's important to be a part of an organization like NAIFA and also just to pay attention.
Sure. So let's talk about voting because, lots of conversation around politics and lots of conversation around rocking the vote and themes that, around those type of conversations. Talk to me a little bit about why so little people vote and the impact that voting can actually have as it deals with making change.
Well, and that's an interesting question. I think that pollsters and political consultants have tried to figure out for the last 50 years. You mentioned the rock the vote. How many times every election cycle do we see these new initiatives to drive people out to vote? Well, you know what that tells me? That tells me that voting is still very low within the population. People still don't pay attention, right? You wouldn't put millions of dollars behind these initiatives if everyone was voting. There's a million reasons why people don't vote. Just base level, some people don't vote because it's raining on election day. People, and I go back to that point I made right at the beginning is people have lives. So they don't necessarily think their vote matters. I think in the last presidential election, 151 million people voted. I don't know off the top of my head. I think the last I checked, our population was 320 million, 330 million. So we're talking less than half the population voted in a presidential cycle. That number drops even more as we get close to the 2022 midterms. It's tough. And it's something that some people just don't think that their vote matters. Some people might think I'm just one of a number. And I go back to that point in Iowa. 6 people decided a congressional race. That's wild to me. And I'm a political nerd, and that's the kind of stuff that I'm very interested in. It's about motivating people to explain why it matters. And I always go back to that point. At the top of the ticket, your vote may seem like it's just a number in that 150 million. But when you get down to city council, I was just in South Carolina before I moved up here, and we had our primaries back on June 14th. I think the total vote counts for most state house races were about 3,000 people. Those people are making decisions, right? Those people are making decisions. And we go back to that Kentucky bill. That's in the state level. So that bill, that 6% is decided by folks that are elected by 3,000 people, right? So on a district by district basis. So it's important to vote just because it's not only your civic duty, but it's actually your duty as a agent or broker, because that your vote is not just a vote for yourself, but it's also a vote for your clients. And, whether it's on either side of the aisle, that doesn't matter. I still encourage every single person to get out and make their voice heard, because it matters in the sense of you never know when a bill is going to drop that actually will directly impact you until it finally drops and then it hits you and you go, oh man, I should have voted in that last election. that person who introduced that bill is actually my representative, and I could have voted against them or voted for them, whatever way you go. But it's tough to motivate people. But that's where I think, when I look at what we were trying to do, we've got a great social media push in June, and we're looking at doing another one in August. And then for the primaries, just making sure people know that their primaries are happening in their states. And we have a great website that I'd love to plug. It's GOTV4financialsecurity.org. And that is a great website because not only does it give you information on all of your ballot based off your address, your home address, it also gives you up-to-date news on races across the board, across the country, both at the federal and state level. It also provides you with more information to your Secretary of State's websites. Again, I encourage people, I think voting starts at the primary level. So we've got August coming up for some states. I know Arizona and Florida. So if you're in those states, please make sure you get out and vote. Check out that website. You can see who's all on your ballot and educate yourself. It takes 20 minutes. You don't have to, like I said earlier, the word political is got a nasty taste in people's mouth. We don't need to have it that way. You don't have to go out and voice who you're voting for on your social media. You just need to go out to that ballot box and make sure that you cast your vote.
Andrew, you bring up a thought that I have. If we go back and just think about the history of the country and where we've come from and what's happened, you're right. The right to vote is people sacrifice their lives, right? If we go back and just read history, right? People sacrifice their lives just for the privilege to vote. And now people have, I believe that people have kind of forgotten the history a little bit and started to take it for granted that it's so easy to do it now, right? And so I think bringing it to top of mind, similar to what you've done in our conversation today, is so important just to remind us of the privilege to vote and the right to vote and our response. You said a great word, the responsibility to do so. Let's talk about, you mentioned August. I'm going to ask you at the end a little bit about the website. I'm going to ask you to repeat that a couple times because, as financial advisors, we go 100 miles an hour and we're doing 12 things at one time. So I'm going to ask you to repeat it a couple times along the way. But, as we go down this journey and this path through Advisor Today, this podcast, we're really exploring and trying to draw out the key information that people can kind of tap into and take with them along the way, whether they listen to it on just the audio or they actually watch the video. You mentioned August. Can you elaborate? What is August other than the time in which kids get ready to go back to school and parents get a little freedom? I mean, what's August? What's so special about August?
Well, first off, I think, I appreciate you bring up the history part because that is true. It truly is a sacred duty of every American to vote. A lot of people didn't have that right for a long, long time. So, we're sitting here in 2022 on a video podcast. 100 years ago, nobody would even thought that we had internet, right? So making sure that you get out and vote is important. So August is a big one. August is the final month of true big primary season ahead of the general election. You have some major states that are going to be voting on their both Republican and Democrat candidates going into November. It's one of the bigger months. It's an interesting one in voting because it's truly that last push. I know all the guys and girls that I know that are campaigning right now. You're almost there. You're almost at the finish line. You get 2 days off, and then you're going to the general election if you win. But you made a key point there that I want to point out just right now is August, kids go back to school. People are getting back into the swing of, life on that structured basis. That goes back to that point of why people don't vote. August is a busy month for life, right? So if you have an election, you may go, oh, I'd like to go vote, but I got to get my kid to school and then I got to go to work. And then, everything kind of kicks back into gear. So it makes it very difficult. So August is a great month for Florida. I know Arizona off the top of my head, which are both states that have heavy mail-in balloting. So if you're looking to vote and you may think, oh gosh, life might hit me. Hey, make a plan. And that's something that you will continuously hear on those, going back to that rock the vote or whatever type of initiatives. Make a plan to vote. in those states, they have mail-in balloting where you can request your ballot and they'll send it to you. You can fill it out and mail it back in. Go ahead and do that now. You can get that done. And then you don't have to worry about, waiting in line on election day or, waking up and going, oh, we have a hurricane in Florida and I can't go vote. It's making that plan. So that's really, August is the last final push before everything shifts into gears where we go into September, October, and then the first week of November, where it's a true sprint, 2 months and 1 week sprint to the general election, the midterms. And some of these states that are popping up in August are some very consequential states, have some very interesting races, both at the Senate level, the gubernatorial level, and even the congressional level. But really the Senate level, you're going to see, you've got a very interesting race in Florida as well as Arizona at the 2 Senate races. Make sure that you get your vote casted, because once you get to that general, you only have 2 options. You can, right now you have plenty of people to pick from. So that's about what August is looking like, especially on those Senate races.
Talk to me a little bit about, we're coming down the final stretch. One of the things we try to do for those who are tuning into this for the first couple of times, we try to make sure we're on point time wise and make sure we're keeping everything tight, right, Andrew? So Talk to me a little bit about advocacy, because, being an advocate for something and speaking up, at NAIFA, we happen to be the advocacy arm for WIFS, Women in Financial Services, NAIA, FSP, and it's important that we come together to diversify financial services across all different types of industry, whether it's through color, creed, organizations, institutions. Talk to me a little bit about advocacy and why it's so critical at this time in this country and also in our industry to be an advocate for something dealing with government and the financial services business.
Well, so that's a great question. We truly are at a great point, and I wouldn't quite say an inflection point, but we're at a very interesting point in our governance. Over the last 2 years, as I mentioned, we went through the pandemic. We're seeing what happened during the pandemic. You saw a lot of rapid legislation get passed and a lot of pass it, we'll explain it later. It's never been more important to make sure that we are right at the door and we're reading this legislation before it gets passed, not just for our businesses, but for our clients. There's a multitude of things that we can do, but I go back to, when we talk about worker classification bills, when you look at what California passed years ago with the AB 5 laws, where, there's an exemption for the financial sector on those 1099 rules and, how you classify somebody that's a 1099 employee. Those are things that you're seeing across the board that are shifting across the state. So right now has never been more important, because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that when those bills pop up, whether it's North Carolina, Kentucky, Iowa, we're the frontline folks to say, no, this can't pass. We can't allow this, because it won't just directly impact my business, because obviously we're all in, everybody's in business to, make money, provide for their family, but it also will impact your clients, which is a double fold on your business, because it'll hurt your business right off the bat saying, oh, we might have to reclassify how we pay our employees. On top of that, and it'll take away that independent broker aspect. And then on top of that, our clients may go, well, now it costs more money to come use you. I don't necessarily want to use, I don't want to spend that extra money. Well, now we have people that might be making bad financial decisions because they aren't able, or they're afraid to go to their financial agents to say, hey, help us. I need your help, but I can't afford it. So it's very important to get involved. And like I said, it's important at all levels of government. One thing that we always, we laugh about at the federal level is how long people have spent in Congress or in the Senate or whatnot. Go look at their history. Most of those people started at a local level in governance. So getting involved with your local officials early in their careers can pay huge dividends 40 years down the road, when who knows, they may go graduate to Congress or graduate to the Senate. And then they're on the, then they get to the House and they're on the Ways and Means Committee. Who knows, they might become the chair of the Financial Services Committee. Well, hey, you built that relationship 20 years ago. Now when a piece of legislation pops up, and you don't think about that, how building that relationship early can mature 20 years down the road to that phone call of the chairman of the financial services going, hey, Tom, Chris, this bill just was introduced to my committee. How will this impact the your business and your clients? Well, it's so simple to start that relationship, and you never know where that will pay off, end up, right? You don't have to do it for, gains. You just do it because at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do for your clients, because you never know where that person, where that road will lead that person. And if you become that SME, that subject matter expert for that member, well, that's a beautiful place to be, to make sure that you're protecting your clients, right? They're calling you to say, how does this impact your industry? Should we pass this? What parts of this bill can we, strip, or what can we add to make sure that we're protecting your clients, going down the road?
Andrew, we recently just came from Washington, D.C. NAIFA came together, the association, we came together at congressional conference where we got a chance to actually go into, the House and the Senate and kind of got a chance to kind of visit with exactly what you were talking about, is to be able to have conversations with our legislation and our committee members and people in the House and the Senate. So what was really interesting is I remember having a conversation about, and someone asked, so what parts of this is good and what parts of this are bad? and we really laughed because we said, wait, didn't you read the bill? and so this is what we did is we tried to translate what that actually would mean for real life people, normal everyday people. And so, NAIFA is big, and right now we are super excited because we represent Main Street America. We represent the people. We give them a voice, and at the end of the day, it's very, very, very important that people exactly that get involved, volunteer, show up, vote, all those wonderful things that you've kind of talked about. Can you kind of talk just a moment? There's a new program that's coming up that's super exciting for NAIFA that's coming up here shortly in Arizona, where we're taking it to we're taking Main Street America and we're bringing them all together and advisors just to make them to go to the next level of their business. Can you talk just a moment about, there's a new program coming out?
Yeah. Real quick, I just want to circle back to one thing that you mentioned when everyone was up here for congressional conference, and when when you're asked, what does this mean? And, you mentioned, didn't you read the bill? A lot of these bills are hundreds and hundreds of pages. And we also have to remember, our legislators had lives before they ended up in Congress or at their state house. They're doctors, they're teachers, they're, everything under the sun. They might not be financial advisors. They might really not have that in their wheelhouse. That might not be their purview. So it's important to remember, hey, when we go and meet with these people, we're the experts. They may have no idea about this sector because it's something that they may have never done. So it's just like you mentioned, it's very important that we get involved because, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking, you've got, an optometrist in the Senate. They may not have the understanding of insurance as much as we would. So, and especially on their staff side. So it's important to make sure that we are the ones that are filling them in. And when they need those anecdotes, and it's telling those stories. Storytelling is important when it comes to advocacy, because it's not we read books all the time. You can read a bill and it's just words on paper. Those personal anecdotes of someone coming up and saying, this line right here, I have a story about this, and this is why this is bad. That's where we make the change. Not only it's changing hearts and minds, because at the end of the day, they vote yes or no or absent. But to get them to vote yes or no, it's about making sure that when they go to vote, they have that story pop up in their brain going, oh, wait, I heard this. That's a personal anecdote. It's not just some, I need you to vote no. Anyone can tell somebody to vote no. Here's why you need to vote no, or here's why you need to vote yes. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. So Yes, we have a very exciting thing coming up this August. It's called our August in District Chapter Challenge. We are challenging all our chapters in a fun way to go out and meet with their legislators. So from August 1st until September 9th, the House and Senate are on recess. And we're at a very fun point and an interesting point because due to the fact that it's the midterm elections, the August recess, typically in off-year elections can be vacation, finally taking some time to be with the family or whatnot. Because it's an election year, just about every single elected official will be hosting events. They'll be hosting town halls. They'll be hosting fundraisers. So we thought, what better way to go and get into the fold if you've never been involved in advocacy than right now? There's a million things that are going to be going on in your state. Go out, meet with your legislators, contact your state chapters. They'll have a list of the events that are going to be going on. Tag along, see what this is about. Because like I said earlier, advocacy, grassroots, going and talking to a legislator can seem daunting to someone that's never done it before. But at the end of the day, they're people. They're humans. They love interaction. You just have to put yourself out there and say, hey, here's my hand up. I want to join. I want to go and see what this is about. And it's not that, as buttoned up, we came up to Capitol Hill, and that's always a very fun time. And everyone seems to really enjoy it. I think we had about 500 people this year. But back in district, these are where there's people, this is their comfort zone. Go and meet with them. They'll go to coffees, go to their fundraisers. If you're interested in getting involved, we have on our website, we have a sign-up form, become an advocacy ambassador for us. Get involved. The Augustin districts are going to be really great. We've had 31 states already pledge to be involved. We have, I think, 4 more have come off this morning. So we're going for that 100% participation. I think we're going to get there. It's very exciting. People seem really jazzed up about it. People are excited, and there's different ways to get involved. This is taking kind of that pressure off of, I'm going to go sit in an office and talk legislation. No, it's about going and meeting people and seeing what going to events is all about. If you've never been to a political event before, they are fun. They are a spectacle on both sides of the aisle. You're going to have a great time. I think of back home where I came from in South Carolina, there's an annual barbecue every year that like 1,000 people come to. And every time you talk to people that are new, they go, wait, this is what getting involved means? Like this is coming, and meeting people and talking about ideas. It's fun. And there's a lot of different, as I mentioned, there's a lot of different ways to get involved. So please, if you are interested, make sure to reach out to your chapter exec, your grassroots chairs, your presidents of your chapter and say, hey, I've never done this before, but I'd like to try and I'd like to see what this is about.
Andrew, as we wrap up, you're exactly right. August is a super busy month. Not only from the political side, but also from the association side. We recently have a fantastic program going on also in August 16th at the Biltmore, where we're going to get an opportunity to come together for a unique conference where it's going to be able to meld politics, growth of practice, and also the opportunity to get better collectively together. As we talked a little bit about, the importance of people. One of the things that we realize in working with people is there are certain groups of people that typically are overlooked as it deals with or may not be as involved because of that. And because of that, we're going to bring that to this conference, the opportunity to work with women and Hispanics and African-American and different cultures to kind of bring that message together. And so as we come to Capitol Hill next year, or at the end of this year, as we start talking about the impact that we can make along the way, we can collectively do it together. So with that in mind, any final thoughts that you'd like to share with everyone as we kind of start to make our way down the road for the balance of the year?
Yeah. Just last thing. Also in August, we have our IFA PAC's birthday. So, a lot of stuff going on for NAIFA through Apex, IFA PAC, our chapter challenge. There's just, it's a busy month. School's getting back in there. So it's exciting. The last thing I'd love to just plug is, again, our website, GOTV for financialsecurity.org. That's GOTV for the letter 4 the number 4 for financialsecurity.org. It's a great resource to look at the primaries, the different elections that are going on. And the last thing I would just challenge everyone that's listening to this, make that first call, make that first step, call your legislator, call your city council member. You don't realize these folks are normal people. They will meet with you. Go and put yourself out there and build that relationship. It doesn't have to be pulling teeth to be in the political world. You don't have to watch the news every single day. You don't have to, post on your social every single day. Just quietly, if you want to get involved, you can quietly do it. Let us know. We'd love to have you join the fold. We're really excited about a lot of stuff that we have going forward. We're building up the advocacy side. We're really working on the grassroots. It's going to be a great, at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of great things coming. So the only thing I ask is, jump on the train now. Don't wait, get involved. There's a million ways to get involved, Chris. It doesn't have to be you don't even have to, if you're not comfortable going out or you don't have the time to go meet with your legislator, you can write them a letter. You can say thank you. And that's the last thing I'd like to say is, hey, all the time legislators get picked on, they're yelled at, they're chastised for everything on both sides of the aisle. It's important to make sure that when they do something that's good, especially on our industry and that impacts our clients, write them a thank you letter, send them a thank you email. Because for every 100 emails that they get as negative, that one thank you, I guarantee you will stand out. And I've talked to legislators across the country, and every single one always comments when they get a thank you letter from someone and they say, gosh, I actually saved that written letter. It's on my office because I don't get many of them. And that makes their day, because at the end of the day, they're putting themselves out there to represent a XYZ constituency. They're a part of the community. They're just our representative. Remember, they work for us. We elect them to represent us, whether it's at the state house or at the federal level. So making sure it's, saying thank you is important. So that would be the last thing I'd like to plug is just get involved and put yourself out there. You'd be surprised how fun and easy it is to get in the political world.
Andrew, I'm going to wrap up with this. I'll wrap us at the end, but I'd like to have a little fun. It's kind of who I am. I played sports in my previous life. I'm a recovering athlete. Don't judge me, but it's okay. So this is just called, in sports, we used to pass the ball to each other and you had to get, it's called, hot, we used to call it hot ball, hot, whatever. And so I'm going to say something. And the first thing that comes to mind, I want you to tell me. I'm asking you a question. You get one word. That's it. So don't go into detail here. We'll see how much fun we can have. I'll ask you 3 or 4 questions and I'll wrap it up. Fair? Ready? When I say the word South Carolina, what's the first word comes to mind?
Clemson.
Interesting. When I say Washington, D.C., what's the first thing comes to mind?
Humidity.
All right. Advocacy. First word that comes to mind.
Grassroots.
And last but not least, when I say NAIFA, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
The
best. Thank you, Andrew, for your time, energy, and effort. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom and thought. Obviously, we can't do this without professionals like you. Thank you for your long-term commitment as a part of being a part of NAIFA, your hard work and everything you do to represent everybody out here who's listening to our podcast for Advisor Today, where we all come together to be better, to step up, to be involved, and to advocate for the lives of those that we represent. So thank you, Andrew. We appreciate it. We'll see you on the next Advisor Today podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series. Make sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.